Welcome to another episode of Heartland Cycling Network. This show we have a special guest. He's actually a city councilman with the city of Bellevue, Don Preister. And I want to just introduce Don to you, and we're going to talk a little bit about bike share and biking. So Don, sort of let me know a little bit about yourself and like how long have you been involved in City of Bellevue and your role, and then how you've expanded it with Green Bellevue. Could tell us a little bit about that as well.
Good. Well, thank you, Jeff. It's nice to be here. Thank you for the invitation, and to your viewers, I hope it's informative for you. I've been on the Bellevue City Council for 13 years now. Prior to that, I was a state senator for 16 years, so have some experience in writing policy and did some things at the state level and now at the city level where I can help. One of the things you mentioned was the bike share station, and so we have been able to set that up at Twin Creek, at the trailhead on the Big Papio Creek. And with the hotel right there, it seems a very good location for it. With it is also the Fix-It station, which we've had a lot of requests for from Bellevue Bicycle Club and other riders. And it was fun going there to do some weeding in the rain garden that we also have right next to that area, and it catches the rainwater. And after this last storm, it did a very good job catching that and protecting that area. So while I was weeding that, I noticed there was a father, his daughter, and his son over at the Fix-It station. So I went over and snapped a picture, and we put that on our 411 Bellevue City page too, because people have been renting the bikes and using the bikes.
I know I was through there just the other day riding with a friend, and we noticed some people. There's actually, like 10 stations, or enough for 10 bikes there? Or
there's enough for 10, and currently there are 8, so we could put 2 more in.
There weren't 10 bikes. I don't think there were 8 bikes there. In fact, I saw a couple of people getting the bikes and and riding off with it. And I think all the bikes that are down there, or that were down there, were e-bikes, if I'm not mistaken. So I mean, if you're talking about riding and you say, well, I don't know if I can ride, and it might be too much for us, the distance or the up and downs. Hey, an e-bike takes a lot of that and levels that off for you. I mean, you just have a wonderful experience, and it's a great way to get out on the trails and enjoy the area. I mean, it's just a gorgeous area and trails. And I know you recently had a dedication of the B-Cycle station.
We did dedicate it. We ceremonial ribbon cutting, or in this case, riding. And so we got a chance to ride the bikes. And you're right, it's a whole new experience riding an electric bike. I've only done it a few times. I'm old school, and I don't even have the 10-speed. I'm still the 3-speed or the single speed that I've always ridden. But the e-bikes you get on and they just cruise. And on the trails, it's pretty level anyway. So if you're going to ride the Papio Trail, it's not difficult. But this just gives you a lot longer range. They
are pedal assist, which means that you still have to pedal. But when you get into an area where it's a little uphill, or you need a little more oomph to keep up with some people, that's when the motor will kick in and help you along. Up to 20 miles an hour, that's the limit on those bikes, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe so.
So, very good. So nice. What motivates you about cycling?
I've always been interested in health and fitness. I've always been interested in the environment. This is an area where they merge. You can get out into nature on some of the trails and parks and outdoor settings. You can get physical activity, fresh air, and exercise. So I like that component of it. Because I'm concerned about the environment, I also don't want to be adding carbon. So I drive an electric car or ride a bicycle, and for 10 years I didn't own a car. My means of transportation to go to work, to go to school, to get groceries, everything I did was on a bicycle.
Okay. Well, one thing that you should probably also know about the B-Cycle station with their e-bikes is that they are charged via solar panels. So their solar electricity is actually, solar power is recharging those batteries in those bikes. And the nice thing about those is that you can pick up the bike at that one station and take it to another station and drop it off if you wanted to.
And that is a great feature because there are 2 stations in Papillion. We're hoping to get another 1 or 2 in Bellevue. And so if people want to pick one up at the hotel, ride it down into Omaha to one of the stations, and there are many of them in Omaha, and then you feel like getting a ride or you're meeting somebody, you don't have to bring it back.
Right.
You can leave it at one of the other docking stations, and there it sits.
Yeah.
And somebody else makes sure that there are bikes moved around so that every docking station has approximately their established amount.
Yeah, if you did an internet search for B-Cycle Omaha or Heartland B-Cycle, I think you'll find the links to their maps for the locations for all their bikes and their stations, and then also a way for you to sign up so that you can, basically pay. I mean, it's a rental for those bikes, but it is really a neat deal.
One of the things that's neat about it is somebody who's never experienced an electric bike has a chance to rent one, to go out and try it, to see what they like, and if they are interested, possibly in buying one.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it gives them an opportunity to try before they buy.
Yeah.
If they're just getting back into cycling or thinking more about doing more cycling, this gives them a chance, and it gives them a little extra help when they may not need it, but they're not sure. So an easing back into cycling is another feature of it.
Okay. Well, tell me a little bit more about Green Bellevue.
Green Bellevue is an organization that I was asked to found by the mayor of Bellevue at the time, Gary Mixon, when I first got on the council. It was at that time when many cities were initiating green teams. And because Gary knew that I was interested in the environment, he asked me if I would, and I immediately said yes, asked people that I knew in Bellevue what they thought of the idea. They came on board, and for the last 13 years, it's been doing a host of things.
I was going to say, what is the mission of Green Bellevue, and what are some of the projects that you've done?
Green Bellevue's mission is to bring people together to be able to improve the environment and the quality of life. So we plant rain gardens. We got the grant to do the one at the trailhead. Mm-hmm. We plant pollinator gardens. We work with the University of Bellevue, and we are planting, tending, and caring for pollinators through that program. We plant trees. We've gotten grants and volunteers and planted over 1,100 trees in public places. We work with the students at our local high schools, all of them, and we've planted some trees and pollinator and rain gardens there too. The students are eager to do it, and they are the future.
Right.
They are the ones who are going to benefit or get the legacy, good or bad, that we leave. So we especially work with students, have some of them on our Green Bellevue board, and obviously transportation is a part of that.
Okay. Well, and that was another thing that I wanted to ask you about, because I think you're also involved in the Complete Streets project or program in Bellevue?
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
And that was what, Bellevue was the very first city to initiate complete streets in the state of Nebraska. And Bellevue did it through Green Bellevue, and we got an ordinance passed. Again, being a policymaker,
Yeah.
I can then bring that forward, and having been asked by the mayor to do this, it helped.
So what does that mean for, let's say, the average citizen in terms of what does Complete Streets actually mean or do?
The focus in terms of bicycles is that Complete Streets wants to have access to transportation systems by all modes of transportation,
Okay.
by all users of all abilities. Normally we think of streets as being there for cars and to deliver our food, our merchandise to stores. We don't think of it as more than that. We have tried to interject bicycles, and so we have bicycles, but we don't necessarily have bicycle lanes. We don't have protected lanes. We don't have good crossings. We don't always have lights timed for efficiency. We don't have safety features for the elderly. Complete Streets wants a complete package. We want elderly to have a little longer time to walk as a pedestrian. We want bicyclists to move through transportation systems safely.
Is there some plan then to say, okay, we're looking at this as the path for a bike lane, okay, along this corridor, okay? And it would be, let's say, on a road or next to a road or what have you. But let's say, okay, we don't have the funds now, but this is the plan. This is what we're going to do. And then let's say you're going to do some road construction there. You could actually incorporate your bike program and your path, because it's bike walking. It's not just for cyclists. Of course, I'm into cycling, so I do walk too, but cycling is the main mode of transportation that I enjoy the most.
Right. And the Complete Streets ordinance provides for that kind of development. So when a new street is going in, when a development is going in, they are required to have trail access and bicycle access. And a normal sidewalk in Bellevue, the code calls for 5 feet, but a sidewalk trail is 8 feet.
I was going to say,
So
okay.
you have a wider access that is now a requirement in the code. So once I'm gone, the policy is still there.
Yeah.
And the benefit of implementing policy
Yeah.
is that as the planning department and the street department carries out these efforts, it's put right into all of those new developments.
Yeah, and I think that's really the great thing is when you're, planning something out, and then when the opportunity arises, you actually are implementing, let's say, the wider path for people to ride and walk on.
And the benefit to that is not only to the riders, the benefit is to other users who may use the trail, but to the taxpayers. Because trying to go in after the fact, after the road's built, after a sidewalk is in, and then put in a bicycle trail or connectivity between other trails is going to cost a lot more money. Probably because you're going to have to tear part of the old one out and then put in a new one.
Right.
It's better, the old saying, measure twice and then do it once.
Yeah, right.
So we have the plan, we follow the plan, and it saves taxpayer money in addition to good service.
And I read a study a couple of years ago when I was doing some research on the benefits of a bike path, walking path within cities, the cities that have implemented this, that it has made those communities much more attractive for people to relocate to. So I think that's a benefit. Especially maybe younger generations, younger people moving in, because they do have that opportunity to be able to take and ride on a path. I know for myself, I live in Southwest Omaha, and I live close to a path. I can get right on the path, and I can go a lot of places, okay?
For many people, at first, they were reluctant to have bike paths and trails along their property. But as you point out, and as studies have shown, property values are enhanced.
There you go.
Not hurt.
Yeah.
So trails and access to recreation and quality of life is extremely important. People move into Bellevue because we have a forest, we have trees, we have wildlife, we have nature, and we have access either through the trails or the bike paths to get out into that nature.
Yeah.
So all of those things enhance the quality of life, which is an enhancement to the property valuation and the value. So it's benefiting all around.
Yeah. And I know one of the major trails that's in that area happens to go around Offutt Air Force Base.
Yeah.
And right now, that's still under construction from the 2019 floods. I mean, when they get it finished, it will be done right. It'll be really nice, but it's taking a long time.
Yeah,
So.
it is. It would be nice if it were done sooner and faster, but there are other things. The runway at Offutt is just being replaced now too. A lot bigger, but the same
Yeah.
kind of principle.
Yeah.
The flooding contributed to the damage, and when you live next to the river, and when we've channelized the river, and we continue to put concrete and housing and other development everywhere in the floodway,
Yeah.
then we can only expect more and more that water's got to go somewhere, as we just saw this past weekend downtown Omaha too.
Yeah.
So we need to work with nature, and I think complete streets and good planning works more with the elements rather than trying to fight them.
Good.
And that's the approach that I always want to take. Plan in advance, bring people together where there are issues or concerns, and then find workable solutions.
Is there a resource, let's say like on the City of Bellevue's website for complete streets that people could go to find out more about what's going on in that area, or not really?
We did have a Complete Streets website, but we haven't maintained it. We were doing a lot of outreach to the public for the first probably 5 years that we had it, getting feedback, seeing where people wanted connectivity between the bicycle trails, working on safety features on the streets. We enacted a citizens panel. The 5 members of that panel pretty much direct activities and lead that effort.
Yeah.
And right now, I don't think they've had the resources or additional finances to keep up the website. But they can go to Green Bellevue, and
Okay.
we have some resources.
Well, that citizens panel, you say there's 5 members on there, and I believe there's 1 or 2 members from the Bellevue Bicycle Club
Yes.
that are on there, and they
Right.
live in Bellevue, which is good. Not everybody that's part of the Bellevue Bicycle Club, like me, I am a member, live in Bellevue. I mean, we live all over the place, but it is a club that has, I think, a good impact on the area. We do strive to be advocates for improved cycling, so we definitely want to cooperate and help things out, and helping out a little bit with the B-Cycle Station. I know there's still some fundraising efforts going on that to pay for that. That's not 100% paid for, is that correct?
That is correct, Jeff, and thank you for mentioning that. And thank you for the contribution. That was very generous. Green Bellevue, as we've led all these efforts, has sought grants and outside funding. People can criticize government for spending money on anything that they don't like. When it's something they like, there's no criticism.
Yeah.
But to avoid that argument, I have always sought, with the trees we plant, with the B-Cycle Station, with everything, to find private money and utilize grants. So this station cost right at $60,000. We have paid $50,000 of that already, and we're working on the last $10,000.
Okay.
We used some city funds to pay for it so we could get it up and operating
This summer,
yet
yeah.
this summer,
Yeah.
rather than wait until the money is raised and we're in the middle of winter and people are not as likely to use it.
Yeah.
So if anybody would like to donate to that, because as soon as this one is paid, I'm working on the next one already.
Okay. Okay. How would they actually donate money?
They can go to our Green Bellevue website and they can contact me through the website, and they would make out the check to Green Bellevue, which is an IRS approved 501c3. So they can get the tax deduction letter from us, and if they're a business or somebody in need that's important. If it's a nonprofit organization and they're helping, they probably don't need the letter.
Right.
But they can make the check out to Green Bellevue, and we will get them a thank you, and we will also get them a tax letter should they want one.
Okay. Very good. Well, that's also not only for businesses, that it'd be for individuals as well, if somebody wants to
Exactly.
do that. And I think the point that you're making is that you don't necessarily want, this is like infrastructure, but you want it to be privately funded versus having the city pay for it. Because you say, it's a project that should appeal to just about everybody, but you just take that away as far as, the city's spending money on this bike station. Well, if it's privately raised, that argument is gone.
Exactly. And even on Facebook, when we were doing the announcement, there was already a comment, who's paying for this?
Yeah.
So that argument is gone, and it makes things go more smoothly. And we have so many requests for all of our recreational activities and our parks and all of the things we do. So the process we use of getting grants and finding alternative sources of funding, Green Bellevue has brought nearly $3 million in the last 11 years, or 13 years that it's been in existence. So we have made a sizable contribution to the city of Bellevue and to the quality of life, financially and in so many other ways.
Okay. So what are some of the other things that are coming up in the, let's say, city of Bellevue that involve cycling that you'd like to discuss?
Well, the Complete Streets Citizen Panel is looking at where signage can be located for safety. We now have the distance from cyclists that car drivers are supposed to maintain, but the drivers don't, for the most part, know that, and we have to educate the public.
I think that's
And so signage and education is ongoing, so that's an area that we can and are looking at doing. We have added some signs, and particularly areas where we know there are more cyclists on some roads than others.
Mm-hmm.
So we want to continue that education. We also want to continue looking where we have existing trails for where we can connect those trails. So we have more access to ride not only on the Big Papio Creek through Bellevue,
Right.
but to get access to it,
right.
and to go through some of the neighborhoods and connect with some other trails.
Yeah, that's been, let's say, one of my pet peeves in regard where some people have mentioned that they've, certain municipalities have invested a lot of money in putting in a bike path, and they say nobody's using it, and the question I ask is does it connect to anything?
Right.
And they say, well, no. Why would somebody want to use it? Connect it to something. I mean, the idea, I think, long range, it will, okay? But, you really need to, complete those projects. And I'm not one to, I'm sort of like, it's a nice to have versus a need to have. I like to say that when the opportunity arises and that you can take and devote some funds to actually enhance this overall project, do that. But like you said, you don't want to take and rip up a sidewalk just to put in a wider sidewalk if, that's the project. I mean, because that's like, you're spending money and, it's not really the best use of the taxpayers' money.
And we work closely with the Papio Missouri River NRD, and the NRD is doing another ribbon cutting of another new trail that they're doing. It's not in Bellevue, but it's in Sarpy County, and they have just done one about 2 weeks ago. So we've got the South Omaha Trail connecting. It's such a wise use of those old rail lines that have been abandoned, and so identifying where those are, working with the NRD who has some additional resource,
right.
And we can leverage those resources with the users, with the NRD, with the cities, with Green Bellevue, with other groups.
Yeah.
So putting those groups together and working on that connectivity and access is very key.
Yeah, very, very good. So, okay. Outside of that, are there any questions that I should have asked that I haven't?
Well, as soon as I leave, I may think of those. But
is there anything else that you'd like to contribute or say at this time?
Well, I appreciate how much more people are thinking about bicycles again these days. I know when I was 15, I was already planning to get a driver's license and a car. My nieces and nephews are 20 years old and they're just getting driver's licenses. they're doing alternative transportation. It's a whole new lifestyle out there for younger people. So the things we're doing at our age are helping younger people who have a whole different outlook on how they transport between places. They want to live closer, not own cars, not have to pay for insurance or the vehicles. They want to ride bicycles.
Yeah.
They want to walk. They want safer streets.
Yeah.
They want complete streets.
Yeah.
So the things that we experienced and lived are not the same things that many young people are looking for today.
Yeah.
So we want to help those folks. We want to help the folks in the SIDs and the neighborhoods get through their neighborhood safely and out into the trails. And we want their young children to be safe, to be able to do that.
Is there some way that people can contact you if they have any suggestions?
Love to have
Or just
them
through
do
Green
that.
Bellevue?
Yeah, they can go to greenbellevue.org and just send me an email and I will respond to them. But
Okay.
any questions, any contact, we have lots of resources. We've got our new website and our old website. We're transitioning right now.
Okay.
But both of them will link and get information to me, and I'll be happy to respond.
Okay, very good. Well, that's a wrap for this particular episode of Heartland Cycling Network. And I just want to remind everybody to pedal on.